Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Going to get started here in just a second to wait for some more people to join. How's everybody doing today? So today is the beginning of our week of action for Reclaim Your Vote here at the National Urban League. We're very excited about it. There's a lot of activities going on this week, and so we want to make sure that we kicked it off right with this conversation that we're going to have today. And still waiting on a few more people to join. We have 3 different young professionals that will be joining us today for a conversation. We have our National YP President, Shalondon Hollingshed. She'll be joining us. We have Brenda Morrison, who is our National Advocacy Chair. And then we have Terrence Brown, who is the Civic Engagement Chair for our Thursday Network chapter in DC. And so for those that don't know, Reclaim Your Vote is our national campaign, and it has 3 focus areas, primarily voter registration, voter education, and voter mobilization. And so we definitely want to touch on all those things today through a young professional lens and make sure that we are giving you all as much information as possible in a short amount of time to make sure that we kick off, like I said, this week of action the right way. So we're going to give it a few more minutes and then we're going to get started. Definitely please share this out. Looks like one of our guests all right. Trying to get everybody in here. Like I said, we definitely want you all to share this out. See a few of our Urban League affiliates and YP chapters have joined the conversation. Yes, I think it's actually 49 days until the election. Somebody just said 50 days. It's 50 days yesterday, so it's getting very, very close. Trying to figure out. Okay, so our first guest has got a message. We'll be requesting to join us here shortly. I was about to say, where is everybody at? I see we have some people from Union County. I see Atlanta, Georgia. Houston, Texas in the building. Hey, Chanel, our former National Advocacy Chair. She's now the Western Region Vice President for our young professionals. See, the Southern Region Conference has joined us. That is coming up. For those that don't know, our young professionals will be convening in Charlotte, North Carolina in just another week or so. So we'll be down there for a few days of action. So if you're in the North Carolina area, we definitely invite you to come join us for that. I see Baton Rouge, Louisiana. DC is in the building. Okay, we got a lot of representation. St. Petersburg. I don't see Jacksonville or Duval County. I see Palm Beach, Chicago. Shout out to Metro Board. That is one of our oldest YP chapters. Yes, we did just get back from CBC. So we definitely appreciate those that were able to come out and support us for that. Our Washington Bureau office did a great job leading those efforts. We were able to have a conversation around the importance of PBIs as well as HBCUs and the funding that we're looking for when it relates to that, but also got a chance to honor a few people. And right now, gonna see if we can get our first guest in here. Who else got an opportunity to make it to CBC? Okay, the Southern Region Conference. Is that CJ? Yes, we did see the Southern Region well represented at CBC. Also got to meet quite a few people actually from Charlotte, um, as well as Michigan. So North Carolina, Michigan, those are two of our focus states when it comes to our Reclaim Your Vote campaign, along with Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Georgia. So we definitely will be on the road going to a lot of these places. Okay, our Southern Region friends. And just bear with us. We're still trying to get our first guest. I see Yellow Payne just joined us. We definitely appreciate him when he came out for our Get Out the Vote rally at Xavier University at National Conference. Did an amazing job with his performance. If you don't follow him, definitely follow him. He does some great work in terms of communicating about voting through his lyrics as an artist. So we definitely appreciate him, especially for his consistency in this space. So shout out to Yellow Payne. So in the meantime, I will start to pull in some of our other guests while we're waiting for hey Brendan.
Hey Ray,
How you doing?
doing well. How you doing?
Good, good.
Good.
London, Madam President.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good.
Yeah.
Gonna see if we can't get our special guest in here before we kick it off. But what have y'all been up to in terms of getting ready for the election?
So I'm down here in Florida, and while many may not consider Florida a battleground state, I'm here to say that it very much is, especially on the ground. And so we just finished our primary elections late last month. Now we're heading into really trying to make sure that people have re-registered to get their vote by mail ballots, as in a lot of people have resorted to that since the pandemic, but a new election law came into play where people need to re-enroll every year to be able to get their vote by mail ballot. And I've heard stories of people saying, I thought I didn't need to request that every year. Now people are in that phase right now. So that's a lot of the work that we're doing right here in Florida.
Okay, well, we'll put a pin in that because we have our special guest. He is our forever mayor. He is my boss's boss, my big boss. He is a civil rights legend who has been leading the Urban League movement for more than 20 years. None other than Mr. Mark H. Morial. President Morial, how you doing?
Hey, Ray. Good to see you, man. And once again, welcome to the team. Ray's now on the NUL EJSI team. What's all those letters mean? The National Urban League Equitable Justice and Strategic Initiative team. Ray, thank you. We couldn't be more excited that you're continuing your service by becoming a full-time member of our team. So great to be with everybody. Great to see everybody on this Monday with, about 50 days to go until the election.
Yes, sir.
And with a tremendous amount of work for us to do and many, many issues in the nation today. But just great to be with everyone. And the passion and the strength of the Urban League movement is at its highest level ever. And I'm deeply appreciative to many across generations who've made that happen.
Yes, sir. Well, I know you can't stay with us for long, but I did want to give you the opportunity to kind of give us that charge to make sure, for us as young professionals, that we are laser focused on the importance of this election and the role that we have to play.
So once again, young people will call the shot. Voters under 40 will call the shot on who is the next president. If young voters turn out, show up, make their voices heard, there's one outcome. If voters under 40 feel it isn't important, it doesn't mean anything, you'll have another outcome. Voters under 40 will call the shot. Voters under 40 called the shot in 2008. They called the shot in 2012. Back in 92, they called the shot because voters under 40 are the largest voting bloc in America. A lot is at stake. The people we elect call the shot on what happens in our lives. And I was just reviewing this morning I want to get this, a New York Times article on Project 2025. And when people say, okay, let's talk about personalities, but let's talk about agendas. Look beyond the smile, beyond the face. Project 2025 is the agenda of the far right. What do they want to do? People want some specifics. Raise taxes for families making under $170,000 a year. Triple taxes for families earning under $75,000 a year. Triple them. Why? To give tax breaks to people who are in the millionaire and billionaire class. That's Project 2025. Cap Medicaid so that you 20% of Medicaid enrollees would automatically be ineligible. That's Project 2025. Abandon any effort for student loan forgiveness. Eliminate Head Start. Ban the Food and Drug Administration's authorization of the abortion pill. and turn the presidency into an imperial dictator. That's the agenda of the far right. That's the agenda of the far right. I'm holding this up. Google the New York Times, Sunday, September 15th. And this is only a part of this agenda. When I read this agenda, I thought about what my daddy told me. Don't get mad. Don't get even. Get ahead. We have to defeat this and get ahead. A lot is at stake. Urban League movement, we got to work to use our power. If we don't use our power, others will. My message is everybody needs a voting plan. Where are you going to vote? Who are you going to vote for? Meaning, we got to vote from the top to the bottom. Some places are electing judges, constables, clerks, sheriffs, council members. Don't be like a friend of mine. She went to go vote 2 years ago. The phone is ringing, blowing up my phone. She says, I'm in a voting poll. I'm in a voting booth. I'm in the machine, and they got all these names in here. I know how to vote for Congress, but what about all these other names? I said, what are they? Oh, they got all these different judges and clerks, and I don't know what to do. I never heard of any of these people. I don't know what this is. I said, you're going to have to do something because you're already inside the voting poll. I said, why didn't you call me last night? She said, I'm just confused. So I said, let's try this. Read the names to me. Let me see if I can help you real quickly. What does that teach us? Have a plan. Educate yourself so that we don't just, we got to vote for president, maybe U.S. Senate, member of Congress, but there's so many other things. Have a voting plan. Where do I vote? What do I need? Do I need an ID? What kind of ID do I need? Make sure you go to the correct polling place. I've had people say, well, I went to the polling place by my mama because that's where I voted the last time. Said, well, they took you off the rolls. You should have re-registered because you live on the other side of town in another county now. We got to help people understand, get a plan, check that registration, learn. You're in Georgia, Pennsylvania, the rules are different. Can you vote early? Can you vote by mail? We have to help our people have a voting plan. Right now, our canvassers and our workers, the beauty of technology is someone can look things up right away in a lot of places, know exactly where your voting poll is, verify whether you are actually registered to vote. We have to have a voting plan because young people, young professionals, you will call the shot. You will call the shot on the future of this country, and so much is at stake. So I know I can count. We have, and Ray, I know you'll talk about this tonight, our Reclaim Your Vote campaign that Jerica is leading with Janae and you and others and Urban League affiliates in many, many states. Lots of activities. I'll be in the great state of North Carolina late next week, be in Winston-Salem, Greensboro, and Charlotte. Looking forward to it, to participate in a number of activities with young professionals, beepers, affiliate leaders, and the like. We're trying to generate power and enthusiasm in all these states. We have to be counted and we have to participate. I'll just say this. When I first started as a voting rights activist in college, I remember we had a voting rights rally at Grambling State University. We went to Grambling and we got a big bus and we had a rally and we had 3 or 4 buses of students. We had to, in those days, take them all the way down to the courthouse, at the parish courthouse, for them to register. There was no vote by mail. There was no remote voting. There was no motor voter. You had to go all the way down, bring your ID. We got there. We showed up, 2 o'clock in the afternoon. They said, we are closed for lunch. When will you be back? 2:45. So we had all the students wait on the buses. Came back at 2:45. They said, well, you have too many people. We're going to close for the day. You all come back another time. That was real time voter suppression. We were burned up. We were hot. We put all this energy and all this work. And these students were effectively disenfranchised. We had to figure out how to confront this, how to deal with this. And our voter registration drives in those days, we did it at a lot of colleges. We had to bring people, we had to rent a bus. We had to have a rally. We had to get people to get on the bus to go all the way down and then stand in line for 45 minutes to an hour. But that generation was also determined and not deterred. Today, it is easier. Early voting, register by mail, motor voter, go on the internet, download the form. I just say that to say, brothers and sisters, we ain't got no time for no excuses. We can make an excuse about something else. We ain't got no time for no excuses. So I'm grateful to the young professionals and the young professionals movement, 25 years now strong, front lines of our civic engagement, core, our civic engagement soldiers, our civic engagement warriors. We know what we have to do. And so the most important thing, when you talk to someone, and I ain't voting, it ain't important. Our instinct is to say, get in their face, jump on them. I think what we should try to do is say, let me hear you. What you say. And try to have an intelligent conversation. We shouldn't just dismiss the fact that people in some cases have lost faith and confidence in the system, but we have to help people understand that democracy is better than autocracy, is better than monarchy and imperialism. And these folks have a plan. And we're not in their plan. But we are in their plan. And their plan is to put us back 100 years. That's their plan. So thank you all very much. I look forward to whoever's going to be in NC. I'll be in NC, and then I'll be in the ATL sometime in October, I'm sure, and other places beyond. So thank you, Ray.
Yes, sir. We appreciate you, and I will see you next week, like you said, in North Carolina.
NC, here we come.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thanks, all. Love y'all.
Love you too. So that was our fearless leader, President Morial. And now we're going to be joined by another one of our WAPI leaders. But Shalonda and Brenda, let's jump right into it as we wait for Terrence to join us. You know, one of the things that we're looking at is the role of, you know, Generation Z when it comes to the upcoming election. And that's basically ages 18 to 27. So, you know, research from Tufts University says that this election cycle, they will make up 40.8 million potential voters that will be eligible. It's a lot of voters. and 8.3 million of them will be eligible to vote for the first time. So for each of you, why do you think it's important for young Black voters to participate in this upcoming election?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. So let me first start by saying good evening to everyone. Many thanks to the National Urban League, to President Morial, and to our new VP, Mr. Shackelford, and the Equitable Justice team for creating this space for us to have this conversation. I think it's a very, very important topic for us to be discussing, especially with so much on the line. And I think it's, it can be summed up in a couple of words from my perspective. I think a lot of times elected officials, and sometimes we do forget that elected officials work for us, right? Elected officials work for us. We are essentially hiring these individuals to sit at tables and make decisions on our behalf. And our vote is our way of hiring these individuals. And so it's important that we each play a part in the decision regarding who's sitting at the table making these decisions on our behalf. And so regardless of what issue is important to you, whether it's voting rights, whether it's women's rights, any freedoms, student loan debt, regardless of what issue is important to you, there is someone making a decision for you at a table. And the way that you can contribute to who is making that decision is by showing up to vote and hiring the people that align with your values and your views. And the reality is we have a lot of decisions on the line this upcoming election. President Morial talked about some of them, the attack on our democracy. And then even, thinking from a national perspective that this next president will potentially be able to select two Supreme Court justices. And we've seen what the Supreme Court can do in terms of decisions over the last few years. And so it's important that we're thinking not only about this specific local election we'll have and making some of these decisions that are going to affect our lives in years to come.
That was a great response. Brenda, I don't know if you have anything to add because Shalonda pretty much laid out pretty thoroughly.
Yeah, so I would follow up definitely with Shalonda's remarks and even say that a lot of those young voters are those who are very innovative, very invigorated to be of an entrepreneurial mindset. And when I think about the local races, President Morial talked about the bottom of the ticket. The bottom of the ticket is as local as you can get. When you're looking in your community and you're looking for resources or you're looking for public services, those are the people that are responsible for delivering it to you, either delivering it to you or working alongside you to bring it forward for the community. So your power, the power of your vote matters a lot at the top and at the bottom. And I think these young voters have the opportunity not to only sway the top of the ticket, but to also sway the whole makeup of what their local community looks like.
No, that's a great point. And I think the thing you mentioned, and even I think President Morial touched on this previously, the importance of like the entire ballot, and what that looks like, especially locally. And I get it depending on where you live, because I was just in a conversation earlier today, around the fact that like Harris County has like the longest ballot in the country, anywhere from like 90 to 100 something things on the ballot. And even for us as individuals that do this work, that's a lot to be researching, preparing for. But just understand, like the further you get down, a lot of times those are the seats and the positions that really impact you even more sometimes than those at the top of the ticket. So please take the time to look at the entire ballot.
Yeah, if I can, Ray, I could even add on and say something as local as or as simple as a tree being cut a different way on a different side of the street is dictated upon who you're picking at the bottom of your ballot. It might not matter to you, it might matter to somebody else, but just knowing the difference of how we're stressing for everybody to vote all the way through the ballot. The president is not going to necessarily focus on that, but your local folks will as well. So you have to make sure that, to your point, Ray, that as tedious as it might get, going through the entire bottom of the ballot is very, very important to your outside community.
What would you say, Brenda, for you? Because I know you do a lot of work in terms of organizing and, all your civic engagement chairs across the country. What are some of the common misconceptions when it comes to voting that you've encountered Um, not just with people in the community, but really more so like amongst your peers, like even, your circle group. I feel like we all have those individuals that, like I have this cousin that's a conspiracy theorist, and it's always something. It's very irritating, but what are some of the things? Because again, going back to Mark's point, we still have to talk to them to see like what is like the concern, and is there something we can explain to them that would actually get them to the poll? So, what are you kind of like hearing amongst your peers?
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll say for the top of the ticket is obviously like certain policy positions that whether either candidate may not go as far out as they would like to, and that's a valid point. I think what people sometimes misunderstand is that regardless at the top or the bottom of the ticket, there is no perfect candidate. The candidate is still a person at the end of the day. They're still a human, so they don't have everything figured out. But I think there's a complementing focus where the people kind of share what their interests are, share what they would like to see happen, and there's an opportunity for candidates to kind of listen in and ensure that that's included in their platform. But to that point, I think a lot of folks misunderstand either certain issues that are still not being addressed the way they want them to, and sometimes they find themselves in a place of just, well, I complained about it and y'all told me to vote and nothing changed, and becoming and then growing the complacency of saying, well, you told me to vote and nothing changed, so what's the point of me voting anyway? And I think that is a misplaced type. Voting works when you do the work and vote. Voting just doesn't work when you just vote and that's it. And I think we as young professionals that are even on this call and watching this live and sharing this with other folks, there's a lot of insight that we could give to these people that are in elected office as well. They don't know everything, they're not perfect, but I think we really miss a true opportunity to go beyond the vote. And sometimes we allow the frustration to say, hey, because things weren't solved the way we wanted to from the first time we voted for somebody, all right, that's it. I'm not going to vote again. And we can't continue to have that posture, especially as we ourselves growing into community leaders and people are modeling themselves after us. We have a true responsibility to continue to keep the fight going beyond the ballot box, but first and foremost, the ballot box.
1,000%. Terrence, I wanted to get you in the conversation. Matter of fact, how are you doing today first before I start asking you questions? How are you doing today?
It's all good, brother Ray. I'm doing great. It's Monday. It's election season. It's a nice day. Just blessed to be alive and here and with you, amazing people.
Okay, okay.
And
You
shout out to Thursday Network.
Yes.
For those of you who don't know me, I'm the Civic Engagement Chair for the Thursday Network, otherwise known as the Greater Washington Urban League Young Professionals. And shout out to Big Memphis, born and raised. I'm always gonna be a Southern boy.
Did you go to any of the? I thought I saw you at the reception for CBC.
Yeah, I was at CBC. Yeah, I grabbed lunch with Jermichael and Erica.
Okay, well, you survived another one. But I wanted to ask you to get you in the conversation. What do you think the role social media plays when it comes to shaping the opinions of Black voters?
Yeah, so social media is it's one of those things. It's almost like a knife. It could be used as a tool that's useful, or it could be used as a weapon and damages. If used carelessly, it could damage us as well. We've seen throughout the years that, like during the Black Lives Matter movement, that social media is a powerful tool that can be used to mobilize not only us here in the States, but even reach across the ocean to where we have allies internationally fighting for the causes that we believe in to, protect our people, advance our people, and what have you. But on the same token, I've also seen, especially recently, just how damaging it can be if it's abused or if people don't bother to go and fact check the information they're consuming. We were talking about conspiracy theories earlier. There's one that's true. Apparently, everything is circles and squares. Look it up. My 3-year-old daughter told me that. But on a more insidious standpoint, you have over the years where countries like Russia who are hostile towards the U.S. Understand that some of the dynamics that are taking place in the United States between Black people and a lot of the discrimination and equities that are present in our country, and they'll use that to their advantage to just cause discourse. And mind you, a lot of those things are true that's taking place, but that's just a prime example of how social media it can go so many directions as far as being useful for us or just being being something that keeps us from being at the table.
I'm glad you brought up the point about Russia because we've actually seen reports that validate the fact that our community in particular, the Black community, was actually targeted by Russian trolls. And so that makes me even go back to um, my cousin as a conspiracy theorist. Like when you get these videos from social media, like actually, that's the first thing I ask him all the time is like, where did you get this? Like, don't just, when you look at the profile, they have like, and not to say just because you have 10 followers, I don't want to act like you got to be a celebrity, but like, just verify, like, where is this coming from? And so I'm just curious, Shalon and Brenda, like, where do y'all get news and like, where do you, how do you determine and make sure that it's a trusted messenger in an age of like disinformation, misinformation, where so many things can be confusing?
Yeah, I'm happy to kind of share a little bit about that. So, unfortunately, being a part of the National Urban League, I'm close to the fire in terms of updates and staying informed about current events. One thing that I leverage is the Urban League's News Digest, which is an email that I get that has a list of publications and updates and key things that the National Urban League feels that we should know to stay informed about some of the current events. And so that saves me a lot of time in terms of trying to find reputable sources that I can leverage. But then I also, after validating a number of different sources, I leverage things such as NPR, right? I'm asking Alexa to turn on NPR in the morning. That's something that I consider to be reputable and to get local and national updates on what's going on across the country and even in my local area. And so part of my way of validating is identifying individuals who are what I consider politicos and in this space, living and breathing it day in and day out, and having conversations with them. What sources are you leveraging for your information and for your research, and how are you validating it? And getting some insight from those individuals has led me to kind of build up a list of kind of trusted resources that I use to kind of get information and stay engaged with what's going on politically.
Okay. And I will say this: if y'all get a video that says Shalonda says something politically, I can assure you that's probably a deep fake or something, unless it's coming from an Urban League platform. So just be mindful of things like that. Brenda, staying on this same kind of like topic of like platforms, social media, how would you say or how would you suggest that young professionals use their platforms and networks to encourage other people to vote?
So I want to quickly just answer the last question you asked. I think for me, I've not always done this, but I think as of the last couple of years, I've had to take the way how I digest information the same as you would when you're at work and you got your IT department telling you beware of phishing attempts. You got to take the extra step. I wouldn't, but prior to, like, I would be like, hey, I'm gonna just read this. I would be a little bit more conscious of what I'm reading and can recognize when it feels a little fishy. But I'm actually taking the extra step now and going to like a couple other sources before I like make a guesstimation, or make an assumption about a particular issue or particular topic. And I've actually found it to be very useful for me, to be honest. I'm a person that I like to gain like different perspectives. Obviously, I could kind of sense for myself what's nonsense to me, but being able to learn or hear about different perspectives on a certain issue allows me to form my worldview a little bit better. And the extra effort I kind of have to take to kind of walk myself away from this information is actually very helpful for me. But I think that, remind me of your question again. I'm sorry.
Well, how would you suggest that young professionals leverage their platforms to basically encourage their networks to vote? And actually,
Yeah.
I just want to point out something real quick. Somebody in the chat sounded so old when I said that. Somebody in the chat pointed out the fact that we should also look at local outlets. So if you
Yeah.
have local
Yes.
papers, local news stations, that you know that have been around for years and years, that's another good source as well. But yeah, that was the question. How would you suggest that young professionals use their platforms and networks to encourage others to vote?
Yeah. So I think this is a great opportunity for us as young professionals who have uh, social media at our fingertips. There is one, and I forgive me, Hall YP listeners who are listening in. I don't know if he is a current member or not, but somebody that I love, love, love to follow, and I've shared his videos a bunch of times. Is Quentin. His name, I think, or IG name is like Q with the Q. And he is a political facto, but he is great at using his platform to break down disinformation a lot of what's going on, whether it is from various current events, of even Trump indictments, anything as it pertains to policy issues, what issues are important, even as simple as what's important to him as a parent. He's breaking down those issues on his social media. Obviously, some of us, depending on our age, we might not be so hip with the tech, as in with TikTok and all of that. I'm a in between like young professional now. I've been in the movement now for 10 years, but it's still even taking me a little bit of time to even work through TikTok. But I could see already my friends like using it in that way to say we have this at our disposal. We need to kind of move against that and use the platform to kind of show people what's not true, pushing them to understand that there needs to be an extra level, an extra sense of sensitivity when you're seeing all of these links come around you and not just biting at the first thing that you see. I think that's part of our responsibility. I was actually at CBC as well too, and there was one panel in particular that Marley Dias was on, and she talked about how we have a responsibility to use our platforms not only in the educational space when we're in community with people, but for the platforms that we have as well too. This is an area of consumption. Social media is an area of consumption, and so we have an opportunity to control what we put out there to go against the narrative. And this comes from a person who is I know I'm on an IG live talking, but I'm very introverted at heart. But I also recognize the people work that I do. There's not a lot of people who are in the space to know what it's about. And if you got what you have at your disposal, you have the responsibility to push against your fears and make sure that you're getting the information out to people.
Absolutely. We're gonna make one more round of questions because I know we're getting close to time. Terrence, I wanted to bring it back to you. When you look at our elected officials, and I can't remember if somebody said this earlier, but you hopefully everybody knows you have the ability to hire and fire your elected officials every cycle. But what have you found are some effective strategies when it comes to holding elected officials accountable?
Yeah. So one of the things I always preach, especially I know to our members in my committee, is we have to show up to city council meetings, all those committee meetings, and actually give testimony and make our voices heard. Uh, Someone who also works in government, uh, you know, is when the public comes to make their voices heard or express their frustration or things they want to see. It's difficult to ignore that, especially when people come in masses and, all those individuals, they come together and they make that powerful fist. And that's how change happens, building those coalitions, working with organizations who support our causes, communities, and fight for the betterment of our people. Just building that people power. Like as President Hollenshed said, the elected officials are beholden to us. But if we're not in their faces demanding that they do their job, or they make the changes that need to be made in the community, then they have no reason to do any of that. That's why, me personally, when I hear someone say, "Oh, my vote doesn't matter," or "I don't believe in voting," it's like giving your power away, because you don't have any ammunition to use in order to hold them to account, because you've already left the table. I don't have to consider you in my decision-making process.
It's a great point. Brenda and Shalondon, this question is for both of you. Now, nearly half of the Gen Z electorate and newly eligible voters are youth of color. It's almost, for Gen Z, I think it's about 45%. In terms of just overall eligible voters, about 45% youth of color. That's a lot. How do you see the future of Black political engagement evolving, and what role do you hope to play in it for each of you?
Yeah, so for me, I think it's going to continue to be digital. We're going to be leveraging technology more and more to continue to get information out to our constituents and to our people and to our communities. My hope is that the future looks diverse, right? That the tables that are making these decisions look like those demographics that you just shared, Ray, and that we have people at the table who look like the people in our country, who can represent the people in our country. I think when we have a diverse group of people at the table, we've got a better chance of creating making decisions and creating solutions that represent our entire country and not just the select few of people. So my hope is that the future looks diverse. I've been fortunate to stay in be in the Urban League in leadership for 10 years and working with young professionals, and whether it's hosting events related to voter registration or voter education events. Even though I'm at the end of my term as president, I imagine that my role in the Urban League will still be helping to engage and develop young professionals in this space and to continue to educate our communities on the values of their vote. And hopefully we start to see more and more young professionals in these leadership positions, because it's one thing to have good leaders in leadership positions, but to have urban leaguers in leadership positions, we can really change the game. And so I'm looking forward to seeing more of our young professionals and more of our urban leaguers take on more leadership positions across the country.
Absolutely. Brenda?
Yeah, ditto everything that Shalondon said. I think for me, I'm excited about the energy that younger voters bring to the table. A lot of leaders tend to have this feeling of keeping things the status quo, and it's not because they just want to keep things the status quo. It's just because it's always been done this way before. And so as we see our issues evolve, as we see more intersectionality with the issues that are connected to why we keep pushing people to vote, I think the insight that Gen Z voters bring, I think we're bringing a new type of energy that for a long time we've struggled to make advocacy, we've struggled to make civic engagement sexy, if you will, or cool, if you will. And I think young voters have the opportunity to really leverage that energy in. And I think there's a due responsibility for us folks who hold positions, mid positions, to ensure that we're creating spaces for these young folks as well. I'm a product of what the movement has even done for me, and even my local chapter down here in Broward County, Florida. I started off as a college student in the movement, and had it not been for folks who were in their 30s in leadership in my local chapter bringing me along and saying, you're not too young to be in this space, I'm not sure if I would be the advocate I am today. I'm not sure if I would have found my voice to say, you know what, I'm a shy person, but I'm going to be in this space talking about how to get people engaged in community. Other young people deserve to have that chance. And so whether it is in elected offices, whether it is in volunteer spaces, professional organizations, the entire thing that we're talking about voting affects all of that, And so I'm excited for what they bring to the table, what we have as an opportunity for young professionals to leverage that, to nurture that, and to build that, because that this is our opportunity amongst ourselves and for those coming beyond us to plant seeds, for the next set of leaders that will come. So I'm very, very excited, truly, of what's to come. I think this is a ripe opportunity for us to create change amongst all the younger folks.
Very well said. And so, this is a kickoff for our week of action with the National Urban League and our Reclaim Your Vote campaign. Tomorrow, hopefully everybody knows, is National Voter Registration Day. Even if you're registered, we still want you to check your registration. There have been several rounds of voter roll purges going on across the country. So please make sure that you are still registered if you were previously, but also that your address and all those things are accurate. To President Morial's point earlier, we don't want you showing up to the wrong polling place just because you voted there last time. You may have moved, something may have changed. So just please check that information. Make sure your loved ones do the same. Make a plan to vote. We talked about how long the ballot is in some of our cities and our states. Don't wait. Like, you have time now. Know what's on your ballot. If you need an absentee ballot, request that as soon as possible. Early voting, know what that looks like. I saw somebody drop in the chat that New Jersey, I think District 10 has a special election this Wednesday. I didn't even know that. So that just goes to show you have to be paying attention and doing your research to make sure. But pick a date and a time so you can vote early. Me personally, I typically try to vote the very first day of early vote just to get it out the way, and it usually takes me maybe 5 minutes. Because I do my research, so I'm able to just go in, vote, and get out the way. So do that as well. This Thursday, we want you to take time to actually encourage people to vote. Reach out to your family, your loved ones. You don't necessarily have to go knock on doors or anything like that. We want you to, if you feel moved to, but I get it. At least reach out within your network. Choose 3 friends, family members, neighbors, etc., and make sure that they have a plan to vote. Talk to them about your own plan. Maybe you can go as a group. And then this Friday is National Black Voter Day. We want you to really get excited. Tell people that you are ready to vote, that you're going to go reclaim your vote. And this weekend, Saturday and Sunday, urban leaguers across the country are hosting events to both prepare as well as mobilize voters. So definitely we want everybody to get engaged. And if you want to get connected, if you want to use some of our resources, we have an amazing toolkit that is available. You can go to reclaimyourvote.org. And the other thing I will make a note of is the ability to sign up as a poll worker. We have a partnership with Power to the Polls. You can find that information on our website again, reclaimyourvote.org, reclaimyourvote.org. Please, please, please get engaged in the process. It's not enough for you just to vote. You need to vote, get somebody else to vote, be a poll worker, vote and do something else so we can make sure that we have as many people involved in the process as possible to ultimately create a better future and improve our communities and make them look like and feel like how we all want. So, Terrence, appreciate Thursday Network for lending you to us this evening. I actually be in the DC area again this week. So I will be reaching out to you all about an event. Brenda, as always, we appreciate your leadership. Somebody in the chat said it's been amazing just to watch you grow, even as an introvert. And Shalonda, of course, you already know you my sister. We locked in. And even though your presidency is coming to an end, you're not done because you will be immediate past president.
That's right.
And so there's still more work to do.
Absolutely.
We thank everybody for joining us. Stay tuned to all of our platforms for National Urban League as well as for NULYP, and get involved, get active, and reclaim your vote. Y'all have a good night.
You too, Ray. Appreciate you, brother.
Bye.